open, who's going to come and officially open this induction ceremony, has been heavy on issues around service for the people. And obviously, there's lots of expectations when it comes to citizens with regards to the newly, voted in government. The UPND, party which is in government right now has a huge task to deliver and ensure that it does, impress, the people that put them into power. One of the talking points and the topics that is worth bringing to the fore, as far as looking at what is expected to come from this particular event, is did stress this fact, because for development to be achieved, does not entertain corruption. So they have it, the Republican president, just about to enter the main hall here at the Mulungushi International Conference Center. With that man, he has mentioned that during his reign as a Republican president, he will raise the bar in terms of quality when it comes to his leadership style. He has mentioned that those who will be his political opponents as he reigns as a Republican president should be able and expect nothing but the best from his end, and that he's going to change the way politics are done in this country. He's going to be willing to hear criticism from members of the opposition. He's given freedom to the media to cover various stakeholders. The public media has been challenged to change the way it was operating in the past, to begin to bring on board, onto the table, different views from various political players, and ensure that they are professional in their operations. And that is what he has promised, and his ministers will be very key in ensuring that that is achieved, isn't it? They'll be very key in ensuring that the aspirations of the president of the UPND party, are met. These men and women must bring in their A game, and it's always very important to mention that when there is political will at presidential level, when it comes to the need, for a very disciplined government, a very disciplined cabinet, when the man at the helm does set the tone for quality, surely you will have no option but to bring in quality as a member of cabinet, as a member of government. The civil service has for a long time been making bad conversations, so to speak, because we've heard a number of individuals say the civil service had seen appointments based on tribe and things of that sort. Tribalism did engross the public service, and the president has said this should come to an end. People must be promoted based on the qualification, their credentials, and nothing less, and not because of the sound of their surname and things of that sort. The president expects that there will be sanity, so to speak, in the civil service. Promotions must be on merit. Nobody will be sent on leave because of being professional, and the media have been on hand to capture that detail. So that detail is on record, and the media will follow through to see that the members of cabinet, the members of government in general adhere and live up to what the president has said in that regard. The rule of law will be very important, when it comes to these men and women. They need to champion the rule of law. And the president, again, has mentioned on several occasions that government personnel, the civil service must be stronger than the cadres. A situation that arguably was not the case, in the past. We saw cadres, approaching, permanent secretaries, getting into their offices, issuing instructions and things of that sort. The president says that must come to an end in this new dawn, in what he calls the new dawn of Zambia's government. So all those promises, all those sentiments must be accompanied by action, and these ministers will be the foot soldiers for the president in that regard to actualize those sentiments. Honorable Sylvia Masebo, once upon a time served as a Minister of Tourism. She brings experience to this cabinet, but also she takes over a ministry that has been at the center of controversy with regards to corruption, scandals that have greeted, the Ministry of Health. We heard of situations and news items where drugs expired, and that was very interesting, because in some health institutions, drugs were not sufficient, and to get news that drugs were expiring in these hospitals, in these different storage facilities, did account for a very ugly scene, if you like, in terms of the Ministry of health. So we will be hoping that that comes to an end. And really, the president has mentioned the fact that he wants to change the narrative when it comes to governance. But again, he can't do that on his own. And you can tell how he was very careful in these appointments. He took his time, despite receiving lots of pressure from members of the public and various stakeholders to quicken up the announcement and the unveiling of members of the cabinet. The president took his time, and he emphasized that he wants to minimize mistakes, if you like, in his appointments. He wanted to pick the best, at least in his case, the best personnel to drive the UPND manifesto, to meet the aspirations of the people of Zambia. So he was very, very careful. He took his time. And when it was right, according to him, he unveiled, the men and women that would, preside over the affairs of this country at cabinet level as well as at provincial level. So there'll be talk about the number of women that characterize, his cabinet. In there, you want to bring in the likes of Doreen Mwamba, who is a minister of, community development. Honorable Sylvia Masebo, we mentioned earlier on, from the Ministry of Health. Honorable Brenda Tambatamba, Ministry in charge of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. Honorable Chushi, of the Ministry of Information, and of course, Her Honor the Vice President, Madam Mtena Lumango, as the women, folk that, give the women profile, if you like, of the cabinet of the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. It would be very interesting to see how the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment is going to thrive. Of course, the Parliament needs to put a stamp to that one. Honorable Collins, Nzuvo, who is a MP for Nangoma, will be very key in ensuring that issues around the environment, and the fact that while the country is yearning for economic development in various sectors, infrastructure development, and issues around manufacturing, sector steering into growth, that the environment still remains safe, that we are still mindful of the fact that we are indebted to the environment. We need to ensure that the environment is safe, despite all these economic activities that the country is yearning for, despite the need for job creation through industrialization. There's still need for the ministry, rather the environment, to be protected, and the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment to be very, very important in that regard. The Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries, to be headed by Honorable Chikote will be very, very important also in that regard, because we've been talking about the need to diversify the country's economy, and that entails, staying away from, the production and the growing of maize, and bringing in rather the selling and the exportation of copper, and depending on the mining sector, we need to move away from the mining sector and bring on board other sectors. The agri sector, the Ministry of Livestock is also important in that regard. So the President of the Republic of Zambia, His Excellency Hakainde Hichilema, is in the building and just about to get underway with proceedings here at the Mulungushi International Conference Center, which is hosting the induction ceremony of cabinet ministers and provincial
unity. Victors in the struggle for their right, we've won freedom's fight. Oh, one strong and free, Africa is our own motherland. Fashioned with and blessed by God, goose and let us, who are people, join as one, brothers under the sun. Oh, one strong and free, one land and one nation is our cry. Dignity and peace ni Zambia's sky, like a noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee. Oh, one strong and free, praise be to God. Praise be, praise be. Bless our great nation, Zambia, Zambia. Free men we stand under the flag of our land, Zambia, praise to thee. Oh, one strong and free. Thank you, Mr. President. Shall we pray? Our God and our Father, who art in heaven, we want to thank you this morning for sustaining our lives even up to this very day. We thank you, Lord, for your blessings and peace that have existed over the years in our nation. We appreciate you, Lord, even for this special occasion that you have brought our leaders together in this manner. Father, we celebrate the success and achievement scored so far by the new government you have put in place. Father, as the head of state officiate this very important occasion, we pray that your blessings and your presence be upon us all. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
The President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, Honorable Cabinet and Provincial Ministers present this morning, the Deputy Secretary to Cabinet in charge of Finance, Economic Development, the Chief Executive Officer of the National School of Government, Dr. Tobias Malimbika, the Clerk of the National Assembly, permanent secretaries and other senior government officials present this morning, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. My task this morning is to call upon the Secretary to Cabinet to give his opening remarks. But before I do that, as the tradition is in the National School of Governance, I will introduce the Secretary to Cabinet to all the participants. Dr. Simon Miti is a highly qualified and versatile experienced Zambian who has served the country in various government positions over a period of 30 years. Dr. Miti holds various academic qualifications in specialized fields, including a BSc Human Biology from the University of Zambia and an MB-CHB from the University of Zambia, a Master's of Public Health from the Leeds University, and a Master of Business Administration from the University of Glamorgan in the United Kingdom. Dr. Miti has diligently served the country as a professional in various government ministries and departments, some of which include being permanent secretary in the following ministries: the Ministry of Health in 2002 to 2009, the Ministry of Science and Technology from 2009 to 2012, and Office of the Vice President as Parliamentary Business Permanent Secretary from 2012 to 2015, and the Ministry of National Planning from 2015 to 2017, and then moved on to Cabinet Office under the Administration Division from 2012 to 2018. He moved on to be the Principal Private Secretary at State House and is currently serving as Secretary to Cabinet. The Secretary to Cabinet has undertaken many leadership and management courses, namely from Boston and Harvard University in the US and the Business School of Schulich University in Canada. Apart from that, before he joined the central government, Dr. Miti has served in the local government and local authorities. He was District Director of Health, Director of Public Health, and has acted as Town Clerk of the City of Ndola, and also as Executive Director of the Ndola Central Hospital. He was also Provincial Health Director of the Copperbelt Province, Director, Technical Support Services, Central Board of Health, as well as acting as Director for the Central Board of Health. With that background, it is now my rare honor and privilege, Mr. President, to call upon Dr. Simon Miti to give his opening remarks.
The President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, Honorable Cabinet and Provincial Ministers, Deputy Secretaries to the Cabinet, the Clerk of the National Assembly, the Auditor General, Permanent Secretaries, and other senior government officials present, members of the press, may I say simply, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am honored and privileged to have this opportunity to welcome you all to this very important induction program. First and foremost, allow me, Mr. President, to thank you for finding time from your very busy schedule to come and officiate at this induction program. We are indeed humbled and excited by your presence at this event. This is a clear demonstration of the importance that you attach to laying a firm, solid foundation for achieving the milestones set by the new Dawn administration. Mr. President, we appreciate your having tasked Cabinet Office to organize this induction program on government procedures, processes, and practices. This program is therefore important as it will help the honorable ministers to settle as they take up their new roles and responsibilities of managing government affairs. I am happy to inform you, Mr. President, that as directed by you, Mr. President, Cabinet has invited all Cabinet and provincial ministers to this very important program. Mr. President, the main objective of this induction program is to accord the honorable ministers a chance to fully understand government operations in terms of procedures, processes, and practices. In addition, the program aims to acquaint the honorable ministers on the do's and the public service, including security implications of being a public officer. Critical to this, Mr. President, on procurement of goods, works, and services. Mr. President, in your earlier speeches, you have emphasized that all these matters and all works and all other matters that have to do with goods and services have to be procured, take into account the three critical elements. Number one, these must be at the right price, right cost, and benchmark prices. Number two, the quality of goods, works, and services. And number three, timely delivery. It is indeed expected that out of this induction program, the honorable ministers will be better equipped to effectively execute the mandates of their respective ministries and provinces and other spending agencies that fall under them in order to respond to the needs of the people of Zambia. Mr. President, with these few remarks, it is now my honor and privilege to call upon you, Mr. President, to officially open this very important induction program. Mr. President, sir.
Thank you. Just allow him time to sit. Thank you. I'll speak seated. Thank you. Thank you very much, Deputy Secretary of the Cabinet, is Director of Ceremonies, and also my colleague who has just spoken. Shall I just say good morning, all of us here? Thank you very much. Come back. Take your time, put your things properly. Take your time. Yeah, no panic. Thank you very much. Media is very important. Fourth estate. This is too close. ZNBC, it's too close. All right, thank you. Let him fix it. Let him fix it. Just take your time, take your time. Take your time. Thank you. Thank you very much. Honorable Cabinet and Provincial Ministers, Secretary to the Cabinet, Deputy Secretaries to the Cabinet, Clerk of the National Assembly, Permanent Secretaries, and other senior government officials that are present here, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to be here to officially open this induction program for Cabinet and Provincial Ministers. Before I go further, just to reiterate our congratulations to you for being appointed into your respective roles to serve the people, not to serve ourselves. So, this program today is very important. It is intended to familiarize yourselves as ministers, cabinet, as provincial ministers, with government procedures, processes, and practices, as has already been indicated by the Secretary to the Cabinet. This induction should enhance your effectiveness as officials charged with the responsibility of providing policy and strategic direction in your respective ministries and indeed provinces. The induction will also strengthen our collective responsibility and, of course, accountability. You can't have responsibilities without accountabilities. It's two sides of the same coin. So, collective responsibility and accountability in the management of public resources, public affairs, for improved service delivery to our people. This induction program will therefore lay the foundation for enhancing your performance as public officers. People occupying Zambian people's offices, please remember, as you walk in that office every day, you are occupying an office that belongs to the people of Zambia, not to yourself. I've been observing over years how many ministers in previous governments, even their style of walking, you can see that this one thinks that is his office. That office belongs to the people. As I said, State House, undergrounds, everything belongs to the people. And I'm very conscious of that every single day I walk in there, that this is for the people of Zambia. I believe you can take a leaf from there. This induction program indeed will assist you with that consciousness in mind to work for the people all the time. Honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, Cabinet, as the highest policy-making organ in our country, operates on principles of collective responsibility. In other countries, they term it a collective. They call themselves, we are a collective. And I think that is true. Cabinet requires us to be confidential at all times. It requires us to declare interest where that is required. If it's not a standing declaration of interest, where a particular activity transaction requires us to disclose our interest, we should do so without being motivated, without being reminded. It's very important. As the New Dawn administration, Freedom Day administration, as people will tell you in the streets, that this is freedom. Yet again, we are bound by the policies, decisions, and programs that we shall make collectively. It is therefore expected of all of us, all of you, ministers, provincial ministers, to work in unison as a team towards the realization of our developmental goals for the good of the people of our great country, Zambia. It is imperative that as people charged with the responsibility for policy and strategic direction of the various sectors, you ensure that policies are coherent, are consistent with the overall government policy. That clarity is inevitable. Otherwise, you find it difficult to operate in your offices. The Zambian people have given us this mandate to deliver on their expectations. The confidence that the Zambian people have in our administration must be met with hard work. Hard work. Hard work. Determination, commitment to service. Many of you know why I'm saying hard work 3 times. We're not on holiday. We're here to work. The two are different, distinctly different. The New Dawn administration must not only meet the people's expectations, we must exceed those expectations. Walk around in the streets of Lusaka, elsewhere, listen to what people are saying. We are free again. We expect this freedom to lead us into more entrepreneurial ways of doing things, so we can exceed our expectations of the people, the expectations of the people. Remember, we were voted in office on the premise of turning around the economy, number 1. Now I can reveal to ourselves, because the competition is over for now, we won the election. We did a lot of work, scientific work, to establish what the people wanted in the 2021 elections. And top on the agenda was to turn around the economy. Science told us that. When others were giving opinion polls which were baseless, we knew where we stood. And we understood what the people wanted. The economy. Turning around the economy. Why turning around the economy? So people's expectations. So we can improve service delivery. So we can take services closer to the people. Decentralization. So we can lower the cost of living. Embedded in their desire to see an economic turnaround. They wanted to see a reduced cost of living. Us who are farmers, go to the main farming shop in Lusaka, you see the prices of veterinary medicines have come down. Take a walk, very near from here. That's part of our agenda, to lower the cost of living, to lower the cost of inputs. Job creation, to create jobs for our people. Creating business opportunities for our people. Not for some people, for all our people. Of course, social support, which can only come out of a functioning economy. We need to get our order right, ministers and provincial ministers, cabinet ministers and provincial ministers. You cannot offer social support to the needy, to the sick, to the weak, to the orphans, to the retirees, without a functioning economy. Let's get that right. Because only the fruit of a successful economy will allow us to support the social sectors. I wanted to make that very clear from day one. Even if your heart is good, which is true for all of us, you cannot share poverty. You cannot redistribute nothing. You can only help those who need help if you have created something. This is what the people of Zambia voted for us to do, to turn around the economy. Then we can have medicines in hospitals. I'm harping on this so we get our thought processes clear in our ministries and as a team and as cabinet and as provinces. What are you doing out there in your area, in your ministry, to lower the cost, as Secretary of the Cabinet has said, to lower the cost of any contracts so the savings from there can go into economic growth, job creation? What are you doing? I'm departing a little bit from my text so I can say what my heart feels, maybe to help somebody here. You can't sit in a ministry, you're a minister. Yes, you don't do procurement. But you cannot sit there, the procurement officer is procuring a pen that costs 2 kwacha and they're procuring it at 20 kwacha. You've taken away an opportunity for a child to be in school. You cannot, my dear colleagues, under the CDF fund or any public expenditure, where as a simple farmer myself, I sink a 60-meter borehole, cased to 60 meters at 20,000 kwacha. And you, in your ministry, in your province, you are allowing boreholes for our women to walk shorter distances to water sources at 60,000 kwacha per borehole. Do we live in a different country? That's what I was seeing in the last government. And we are determined. You should be determined not to allow those issues to happen. Secretary of Cabinet, that applies to you in the public service. You cannot say because the minister is not a procuring, how shall I put it, entity, it is me, the PS, I will buy boreholes at 60,000 kwacha. What you will have done is to take away 2 boreholes from another village that needed water. That too will not happen under this government. I think this departure sends a clear message. There will be no tolerance, zero tolerance levels to such transgressions. Why? Because the people voted for us to give them water. And we've taken water away from them. Then you walk in the morning, you sit in the chair as your minister and say, oh, I'm doing very well. No, sir. No, madam. No, not at all. They save money. The savings will place them in youth opportunities, empowerment opportunities, so they can employ themselves. We have to change procurement procedures, and we shall do it very quickly. Go in your ministries, check what is going wrong. I've been doing that. From the day we were declared winners, I have been doing that. Long hours, I'm checking here, I'm checking there. Ask the Secretary of the Cabinet. We're talking. We're talking. The savings we generate from this behavior, good behavior, will begin to make us decent people who can be proud and should be proud to be Zambians. If you say the previous government was not doing well, the very day you are appointed into your portfolio, you are making calls as to which tenders are of interest to you. Yes, you must have interest to lower the cost. 3 principles. Procure at the right cost, competitive cost, benchmark, good quality. Roads that were done and we were told roads are being done, they are peeling off already, but done at a huge cost. Not in this government, not in this New Dawn government. So the right quality, number 2. Number 3, I'm repeating, delivery on time. We don't have time. 5 years is not a long time. It's a very short time. There are benchmarks upon which the effectiveness of our government will be measured in the next 5 years, as mandated by the people of Zambia. Ministers, cabinet ministers, provincial ministers, I will not hesitate to make necessary administrative changes for us to remain on course and achieve our objectives. We will not be shy to do that. You are a cabinet that reflects the face of Zambia. But that does not justify you transgressing against the people's will because you come from a region which is supposed to be also on cabinet. Yes, there are many people from your region that can also be cabinet ministers. I think that's fair, in my view. Honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, the presentations that are lined up in today's induction highlight some of the signposts to warn you about the dangers of not adhering to procedures, processes, and practices in the execution of your duties. We must acquaint ourselves with the aforementioned factors, because failure to do so may result in the intolerable breach of the rule of law, which we have undertaken to respect. I believe ignorance, even at law, is no defense. So this workshop should help us. I'm convinced that at the end of this induction, you'll have better understanding of how government business is conducted. We discussed with the Secretary to the Cabinet out there that this will not be the first exercise of this nature. We plan to do it quarterly. Why? We can alumni with each other. We can compare notes. How has it been in the last 3 months? And you yourselves will be making suggestions that what you found in your ministries are these challenges that we can help each other to resolve. And that will help us build a team, collective, for the service of our people. I guess we agreed. And I'm reminded that such has not happened before. Am I right, Secretary of the Cabinet? Those that came before us never thought of such an exercise. Maybe you can reflect why things went the way they went. But that's not for them. This workshop is about us. We are here to do what we believe is right for the people of Zambia. I therefore expect all of you ministers going forward to strictly adhere to the laid down procedures, processes, and practices that the presenters, I believe so, will share with us, with you today. And I encourage you to be attentive, please. Again, I watch. In the past, I was watching. Ministers are having a session, and people are sleeping in the session. I don't think anyone has to say more about it. Why would you be sleeping in a meeting? Relax, stand up, just walk about, be attentive. Then you will miss valuable, lessons. Please. Just the way we carry ourselves, already Zambians are saying, this is it. Where were these people? But these people is you. You are the mirror of this team, people's team. Experience from the past government shows that the common cause of misunderstandings between ministers and technocrats could be many. But among these is the failure to understand and appreciate one government's vision. this government's vision in our case, which I believe is very clear. Make our manifesto where our vision is clearly spelled out as part of your reading material when you feel bored. Please. That clarity is important. Government's vision. Our government's policies. You have been in the party or associated with this party different periods of time amongst yourselves. But even the older members of the party, please find time to reflect, read, refresh on the party vision, on the party policies, and that may help as you provide leadership in the ministry and guiding the technocrats. But also it's true that the failure to appreciate, I think Secretary of the Cabinet has mentioned, distinct roles and responsibilities between ministers and technocrats or staff could create a problem also. I choose to express myself the way I feel on this one. Actually, it's not a one-sided issue. Sometimes ministers transgress on the roles of technocrats. It is also true that sometimes technocrats transgress on roles of the ministers and take advantage that ministers are not involved in their responsibilities and therefore they can do what they want. That's true, Secretary to the Cabinet. This is not your induction, but you are part of Cabinet. You are a Cabinet member. In a way, you sit in Cabinet. I beg your pardon. The laws must be followed. You sit in Cabinet. So that too will not work to continue with old habits because the ministers are not procurement officers. Yes, they are not, but they are supervisors. It takes two to tango. So even the technocrats must understand the UPND vision and objectives, and then the team will work well. Of course, minister is not a permanent secretary. Permanent secretary is not a minister. But I think I've illustrated the point here. It is therefore expected that as policymakers, you provide the necessary leadership to ensure a productive environment, a working environment, and relationships with your permanent secretaries and other officials in your respective ministries and provinces. And I think I've already made the point that the reverse is also true. A team means the ministers and the technocrats. Simply put, ministers beginning to take up administrative functions to be procurement officers, finance officers. I was chatting with somebody. I said, what should we not do which others before us were doing it? And they singled out one minister. Immediately they moved in the previous, I'm not targeting anybody, in the previous regimes, so I can conceal. Immediately that minister moved in there. They took over procurement functions. They were the accounting officers, finance officers. They were buying, and I'm sure you can have an idea. And you end up in trouble. Then you start blaming others. I wish to mention that in line with the Constitution of Zambia, particularly Article 931, which provides that, and I quote, a decision or instruction of the President shall be in writing under the President's signature. End of quote. On my part, as your colleague, I will abide by this constitutional provision in my giving instructions to you as ministers. Similarly, it follows that your instructions to your permanent secretaries shall also be in writing. Of course, in a meeting you discuss. After that, you can get your permanent secretary to reduce it in writing to avoid misunderstanding, clarity of instructions. But remember, if you reduce anything to writing, you better do your homework. I guess you know what I'm saying. You better do your homework. Is what I'm doing right? Is my instruction legal? But Secretary of Cabinet, I reverse this position. Equally, the technocrats must stay within the law. Equally, the technocrats must take responsibility for decisions they are making. Let me return to the ball. If you're the technocrat, you're the procurement officer, you're the finance officer, why are you paying 60,000 kwacha for a borehole of 20,000 kwacha? You too must better be on the right side of things. This sounds a difficult thing to do. No, that's what we do in our homes, with our children, with our wives. That's what we do. How can a child go to buy bread at a grocery shop for 15 kwacha and they come back and tell you that, Daddy, Mommy, you gave me 20 kwacha, I spent it on bread. But bread is 15 kwacha. She must bring change for 5 kwacha. Charity begins at home. That's how we live normal lives. We're not saying something strange. Honorable ministers, cabinet, provincial ministers, ladies and gentlemen, this induction of ministers is part of the process of enhancing government operations to ensure efficient and effective policy implementation and service delivery. Goes without saying. It is therefore expected that after this induction, you will take time to familiarize yourselves, very important, with the materials that will be presented to you. After your induction, you will be required to ensure that adequate consultations are made on policy matters before public engagement. This will result in factual and coordinated communication as well as positive perception of us by the public. And you are the carriers of that interpretation of perception, because you are rubbing shoulders with people every day. And people should be proud of you as a minister. As I conclude, I urge you to take the induction seriously, fully participate, please, in the deliberations, as I said earlier on. After your participation in this induction program, I think we should be able to work harmoniously together, better relationships. Takes time to build friendship relationships, working relationship. Takes time. I come from a professional home myself, and I know how much it has helped me in how to work with people. Polite but firm, driven by common interest, You shall be okay. But it takes time to build relationships that are meaningful. And I believe, we believe you are equal to the task. You are leaders in your own right. You've come a long way to be ministers. You've done a lot. Just search in that bag of history experience, it will serve you well. I believe that from here on, we will be able to work towards ensuring effective service delivery for the benefit of the people of Zambia. Always, always, please. With these remarks, I have the privilege to declare this induction program for cabinet and provincial ministers officially open. May God bless you all. May God bless our great country, which we intend to make greater together. This, our country, Zambia. I thank you all.
Can we give the President another round of applause, please? Mr. President, allow me to call upon Honorable